It's your boy T-Burn Reaction. Sorry if it's late or not. I recorded on Friday, but it may not come on Fridays. It's pretty much not coming Friday at the time. It's like 11 o'clock p.m. Like p.m. I'm not gonna be able to get up till tomorrow. But anyways, so some I was calling this the makeup for Films Friday because had to take care of my son. It's nothing wrong with him. Just as you saw my last video about previous video I recorded, part of it has hot takes. He was getting restless, so we stepped away and made sure he was cool. Anyway, so it's Films Friday stuff, which is the kill count, and we're on classic week. We at the end of the originals lounge I was gonna do for classic horror as well too, and that is the Universal Studios speed run that feature all the guys I covered, all the movies I covered, such as Dracula, Frankenstein, The Wolfman, Invisible Man, as well as a couple others as well too, including The Creature in the Black Lagoon. So anyway, and I think it's The Phantom, I'm not sure. Other than that, we'll see this will be an interesting one as a kill count speed run with all the Universal monsters. So without further ado, let's check it out.
Hey everybody, we've got a special video for you today, sponsored by Renfield, the new Universal movie that just hit theaters today. Renfield is a fresh twist on a classic gothic tale. Chelsea and I saw an advanced screening of it, and it's filled with awesome action sequences and a scenery-biting Nick Cage. There are also a whole lot of kills, and they go all out with the blood. Much like a certain flat-topped friend, Renfield is built from the bones of monster movies past. And if you're talking movie monsters, you can't get more classic than Universal. From 1931 to 1956, over the course of 25 years and 41 films, Universal defined horror. From forever weary werewolves to eternally miffed mummies, from neck bolts to neck gills, from fangs to, more fangs. The classic Universal monsters have left their mark on the genre in more ways than anyone can count. But counting's kind of my job, so I'll give it a shot anyway. Consider this a speedrun kill count of the Universal monster movies. There's no better way to start this monster mash than with the Count himself.
I am Dracula.
Although he existed long before, both in-universe and out, Dracula bid Universal's Monsterverse good evening in 1931. The Transylvanian trickster had already been dead for over 500 years when he asked Renfield to find him a summer home in sunny London, a city of high society and low necklines. Although later depictions would make him more of a romantic, the Universal Drac was mostly out for blood, though he did tend to prefer it from prettier clavicles. We all know he sucked, but he could also hypnotize entry-level assistants, turn into a bat or wolf, and even conduct electricity with his ring. At least he could that one time he did it. Turnoffs include Wolfsbane and Mears, and he can be killed by sunlight and stakes through the heart. Those get him a lot, too. He's the only Universal monster that pretty explicitly dies at the end of every movie he's in. Of course, the Count was able to dish out death even more than he suffered from it. In the original Dracula, the Prince of Darkness cost 14 kills out of the movie's 15 total. It's the second highest body count by any monster in a single movie, and you can double check my work in the kill count episode. Trust me though, it's correct. There's a reason Bela Lugosi kickstarted the Universal Monsters canon. In my kill count, I mentioned the Spanish language version of Dracula, which starred Carlos Villarreal and was shot on the same sets after the English language crew wrapped for the day. Despite being a sister production though, it pulled back on the bloodshed, with a still respectable 6 kills by Dracula out of 7 total. Dracula was staked through the heart at the end of both of those films, but the Re-Dead Undead count was just getting started. Bela Lugosi didn't reprise his role in 1936's Dracula's Daughter, but a wax dummy was made in his image and stood in for the Count's corpse. His body is ritualistically burned, netting him 0 kills, but his pride and joy nabbed 4 in the film, a regular chip off the old bat block. Dracula's flesh and blood, but
Son of Dracula,
kept up the family business in 1943's Son of Dracula. Although dear old dad is an undead deadbeat, he's nowhere to be found in the film, but his bouncing baby bat is played by Lon Chaney Jr., a name that'll sound like an echo by the end of this video. Dracula was resurrected in 1944's House of Frankenstein, when the steak was pulled out of his non-extra crispy corpse. But again, the role was Lugosi-less. The Count was now played in a more novel-accurate form by John Carradine. The mustache didn't do his bloodlust any favors, as he only scored 1 kill out of 12 total in the film. Probably didn't help that he died by dawn's early light 10 minutes after returning to the land of the living. Despite Drac's second demise, Carradine flapped around for the following year's House of Dracula, but he put in an even worse show going here, with 0 kills out of 6 in his own house, and dying the exact same way. Dracula ended his reign of sucking alongside most of the other monsters in 1948's Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
Classic.
Lugosi might have made his triumphant return to the role, but the numbers didn't return with him. Drac only netted 1 out of 4 kills total. Not bad for a comedy though, and he did manage to take down the Wolfman, even if he drowned with him. That makes a grand total of 22 count kills counted out of 49 total across 6 movies and 3 actors.
Wow.
His per picture average is 3 2/3 kills. Not too shabby, but let's check out the competition.
Alright, what's next? Frankenstein, probably.
The history of
Yep.
Frankenstein's monster is in shambles. Literally, he's the patchwork brainchild of Dr. Henry Frankenstein, the prototypical mad scientist trying to play God. And to his credit, he did. Stitch together a bunch of grave-robbed limbs, drop in a criminally deranged brain, stick it outside when the forecast calls for storms, and you've got one of the most sympathetic monsters in movie history. In the early films, he was capable of rudimentary speech, but
Right.
his abilities dwindled over time between nullified deaths and less successful experiments, until eventually he could neither talk nor see. That's why the default Frankenstein impression is so touchy-feely. His only real weakness is his fear of fire, but that should be okay as long as he doesn't end up in a series of burning buildings. Oh, well, shit. Boris Karloff grunted his way into horror history with 1931's Frankenstein, released just 10 months after Dracula. It's a performance every bit as iconic as Lugosi's, though with a slightly smaller bite. Frank would rack up 3 kills out of 5 total in the film before a mob of angry locals torched his windmill hideout. Though I erroneously counted him on my kill count episode, 1935's Bride of Frankenstein revealed that he survived by falling into a convenient well. Minus the greatest hits flashbacks featured in the sequel, the monster claimed 7 out of 8 kills in Bride, including his own sacrificial self-destruction of the doctor's latest lab. 1939's Son of Frankenstein sees his familiar corpse moved to the family crypt, where the original Mad Doctor's mad son finds him and decides to try again. In Karloff's final performance in the role, the monster racks up 3 out of the movie's 4 kills and sinks to his most permanent death yet in a vat of molten sulfur. But you know what they say. You just can't keep a good monster down. The Abomination of Science was blasted out of the sulfur and revived in 1942's The Ghost of Frankenstein. Lon Chaney Jr. takes over the role for the first and only time, cementing his record as the only actor to play 4 different Universal monsters. Bela Lugosi gets partial credit, though, since he voices the monster once his brain gets swapped with the hunchbacked Igor. Co-pilots aside, the monster nabs 5 kills out of 13 total in Ghost, and goes out in another towering inferno. Bela Lugosi lost the voiceover gig, but took over the monster's stumbling in 1943's Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, the first Universal monster crossover film. He's thawed out of the ice beneath Castle Frankenstein, kills none out of the movie's 5 victims, and drowns in a flood with the Wolfman. Pretty poor showing there, Frank. 1944's House of Frankenstein.
Before I go far, I gotta grab something. I'm back. Had to give me a little energy here. Hey man, let's go.
Thawed him out again, but Freezerburn turned him into Glenn Strange, who wore the platform boots for the rest of the series. At least he gets some points on the board this time, killing 3 out of 12 total victims. He also got to go out on his own terms, marching into quicksand with Boris Karloff's Mad Doctor in his arms. I swear, these Universal monster actors drew their roles out of a hat sometimes. 1945's House of Dracula undoes that second poetic death by having the monster discovered in a cave where the quicksand just kind of spills out of. He's catatonic for almost the entire movie, which explains why he gets 0 kills. Damn, another poor showing. And they couldn't even afford new footage for his fiery death. Frank should probably consider moving closer to water. Then again, 1948's Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein revives him as a museum exhibit and kills him for good with a burning dock surrounded by water. Just can't catch a break, that monster. He brings his kill count total to a fitting end by hurling one last lab assistant out a window. Although Frankenstein's school project can claim more actors than Dracula with 4 and more movies with 8, he just can't claim the same killer instinct since he only had 22 kills out of the 57 total in his movies. That gives him a per movie average of 2 3/4 kills.
Who's next?
But if there's any universal
And
monster that
invisible.
understands killer instinct, it's the Invisible Man. The OG IM is Dr. Jack Griffin, the genius who discovered a serum for invisibility and served as its first human test subject. The only catch with the no seum juice is that it slowly drives you megalomaniacally insane. Sometimes. See, the Invisible Man series is unique in the Universal canon because no two movies feature the same Invisible Man, if it's even a man at all. The see-through subject is only a straight-up villain twice, and some sequels don't even include that psychotic ticking time bomb.
yeah.
But the first movie really tips the kill count in his favor, which you'd know if you saw its kill count episode. In the
did.
1933 original, Jack Griffin was played by Claude Rains, who really let it rip, killing a
did.
staggering 104 people out of the movie's 105 victims. His reign of terror would have kept reigning if he hadn't gotten gunned down by police, which is why the 1940 follow-up, The Invisible Man Returns, picks up with a new Invisible Man. The wrongfully accused fugitive, Sir Geoffrey Radcliffe, is injected with the serum by Jack Griffin's brother, Frank. Radcliffe is played by the legendary Vincent Price in his first horror role, and he's actually a pretty nice guy, so he doesn't kill anybody, neither of the movie's paltry 2 kills. Released the same year, The Invisible Woman dropped the horror genre entirely and was more of a sci-fi comedy. Virginia Bruce plays the clear crusader this time, a model named Kitty Carroll, who's put through an invisibility machine and wreaks overdue havoc on her misogynistic boss. Unfortunately, that means no kills at all. 1942 saw the Invisible franchise get more
Invisible
patriotic with Invisible Agent, in which Jack Griffin's grandson Frank Raymond is conscripted as the ultimate spy. As played by John Hall, he's more of a Nazi prankster than a Nazi hunter, and he doesn't contribute to any of the movie's 3 kills. John Hall returned for a second tour of head bandage duty in 1944's The Invisible Man's Revenge. Although his character is named Robert Griffin, he has no relation to the last guy or even the original guy. In between the usual hijinks, he racks up only 1 of 2 kills in the movie, although he does have 3 headlining homicides that won't be tallied due to a technicality. Off-screen kills of characters we've
course.
never met don't count. Sorry, guy. In the end of Revenge, Griffin becomes the only Universal monster taken down by a dog that isn't half Lon
Damn.
Chaney Jr. Vincent Price reappeared, or rather didn't, in an uncredited cameo in the closing seconds of
Abbott and
1948's
Costello.
Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. Although the character's name isn't specified, this does make Price the only actor to plausibly play the same Invisible Man twice. The comedic duo would spend more quality time with the character in 1951's Abbott and Costello Meet the Invisible Man. Once again, however, this would be a different Invisible Man entirely. A famous boxer named Tommy Nelson, played by Arthur Franz. There's only 1 kill in the movie, and Nelson's not even responsible for it. A far cry from the triple-digit days of Invisible Yore. Now, Jack Griffin alone outkilled all the other monsters combined, but for the sake of fairness, we'll still take averages. Invisible People claimed 105 souls out of a possible 117 across 7 movies, 6 characters, and 5 actors. That's Universal Monster math. That gives them a per movie average of 15, by far the most out of any of these characters.
Alright, probably man.
Things are a little more chill
Yup.
with poor old Larry Talbot, better known as the Wolfman.
Oh.
After the death of his brother, Larry moves back in with his estranged father in their Welsh homeland. Just when he gets the hang of small-town living, he gets bitten by a wolf while trying to save a friend of his would-be girlfriend. A Romani fortune teller breaks him the bad news. He's killed their werewolf son, and it's now his nocturnal burden to bear. As far as universal curses go, it's not the worst deal. You get super strength, near invincibility, and eternal life in exchange for, what, a silver allergy? But Larry has something the other monsters don't: consistency. The Wolfman is always Larry Talbot, and the character is always played by Lon Chaney Jr. He also always wants to die. It makes his story one of the most tragic in monsterdom, and you can see more details to his start in our kill count episode. In the 1941 original, Larry and his lesser half kill 2 of the movie's 4 victims. The dog is ultimately put down by a beating with a silver-headed cane. His plight continued in 1943's
The
Frankenstein
Wolfman.
Meets the Wolfman. There, he's resurrected against his will by 2 grave robbers who don't know how to leave wolfsbane reefs alone. The movie has 5 total kills, and Larry's
Right.
responsible for 3 of them, villagers he mauls to death, before drowning in the main event alongside Frankenstein's monster. But Transylmania wasn't over just yet. In 1944's House of
Frankenstein, he
Frankenstein,
was in it
both
too.
contenders defrosted, ignored each other, and died in completely unrelated ways. Still, the Wolfman claimed 2 kills of the movie's 12 total before getting his belly scratched by a silver bullet. If that's too much of a bummer, 1945's House of Dracula
Dracula
simply pretended that never happened, so
Wow,
Larry
of
could
course.
finally find a little peace. Out of 6 total kills, he only nicks 2, but the last is no less than the Frankenstein monster, trapping him in his final burning building. Larry walks off into the sunset at the end, all man and no more dog. Just kidding, he's still half dog, and 1948's Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. He only gets
So
one of the
pretty much
movie's
then
4 kills.
Everybody is at on I can't think of the name. Abbott and Costello though. Give me a minute.